The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are we doing this morning?
Oh, we're doing pretty good.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're on top of this. We're good.
That's a very pretty necklace you're wearing there. It ties in with your dress so lovely.
I love it. It's a shirt.
Okay.
I know, but I have so many dresses. I think we talked about that last episode. This one was a Mother's Day gift.
Aww.
Yeah, I remember when my husband gave this to me because it was right after I had Forrest, not too long after I had Forrest, and I was in the morning. I was feeding him and rocking, and he came in with Meadow Mother's Day morning and gave me this necklace.
Oh, so pretty, so
Thank
pretty.
you. I know, and I love when you wear this one too.
Oh, this one I love. This is always, to me, this is the Iowa necklace. Now, I did not buy it in Iowa, to be clear. I like to wear the red because red's always so significant to Sweetie, and I feel like we're at a significant letter today, which, I can't wait to get into the contents of this letter. But the rose, the state flower of Iowa is the rose. So every time I keep thinking about Sweetie and like her feeling like home, and we get to if I'm wearing this, it's because that's the vibe that I'm feeling from the letter. But it's actually a Michael Michaud, so I'll put that in the description or something. They're not sponsoring us, but their jewelry is amazing, and it's all based on florals. So if you're big into florals and things like that, it's pretty notable, and it's a fun one to look at. Okay. Sweetie today, as I said, it's a big episode today. It's so big. It's just one letter.
It's one letter.
Oh my goodness.
And you know when it's one letter, it's got to be good. And at the end of the last episode, I was like, yay, next letter, and we were done. And I was sad. And then so now, but this one is like a ton of letters all wrapped into one.
Yeah, we couldn't even start this letter at the end of the last episode. It's just too huge. It's too huge. And it's because Sweetie's got so much to catch her family up on. Now her family's been like on vacation. The rest of the Grahams are over at the shore with Elizabeth. You know, Dit and Bob and Bobby Jr. and G-Mom are having a nice time. Lou's been off cruising with the Navy in Atlantic City because he has to as part of his responsibilities. The truck finally arrived, so if you've been following our 4-episode arc, this being the 4th part of Sweetie buying a house, the settlement has happened, the truck has arrived, the furniture is there, she is moving in and doing all the stuff that you do when you first move in, and now it's time to sit down and write to her family about this brand new house. At the end of this episode, we are going to show, for those that were wondering about it, the picture of the house. Right before we get into the letters today, if you could please like, share, and subscribe to the Love Sweetie podcast on YouTube, that'd be really great. If you could leave a review on our audio channels, wherever you're listening. So if it's Spotify, if it's Apple Podcasts, that's super helpful. And please check out our website at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com. The photos that you see in the episode today will be in the photo galleries over there, and there will be a new photo album started. So we have all the little albums all separated out based on content. The new photo album, of course, is County Line Road. So, and this will be the first photo that'll appear in that album, is the photo of the house here. But yeah, I'm gonna dive in.
Dive into our only letter for today's episode.
Yeah. County Line Road, RFD, Hatboro, Pennsylvania, October 17th, 1949. Dear Mama and Papa, dear Jean, dear sisters, and dear Franks, and dear Florence, this is the day, and as you've already guessed by the size of the envelope, Sweetie's fingers are out of their splints, and I've succeeded in borrowing Elizabeth's typewriter. I appointed Lou a committee of one to try to buy this typewriter from Dit. She didn't want to sell it. I didn't want to borrow it, but decided it was the only way to get myself out of the doghouse and get all of you up to date at once. This must be long and lengthy, and I hope not too boring, so settle down with the idea of being idle for a while. First off, before I forget it, I must tell you that the packages have arrived safely. The package from the Folks and from Henry Field arrived on the same mail, both in fine condition. I believe in mental telepathy. I was hoping that Daddy would send me some King Alfreds, and in the mail, here they come. I shall set them out as soon as we can get the lot disked and dragged by the farmer in back of us. When the house was finished, they did a very poor job of grading, and it would be virtually impossible to run a lawnmower if it weren't done. We shall have it disked and dragged this week as early as possible, and I shall set out the things immediately. Lou's mother is giving us her iris to set out here, and some rows of Sharon bushes, a rose bush I think, and some strawberry plants. I am not up on my gardening, but thought there was some rule about setting and resetting parent plants. Now, Papa, don't you laugh, but I do wish you'd write me and tell me, what about those strawberry plants? She doesn't even know what kind they are, and I'm sure I couldn't tell either. I think I may risk setting them out anyway. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. The box with the flight pants books and odds and ends came at the same time. I purposely left those flight pants so that Papa would not go out in this cold weather without his snow snoot. We have another one, and I'm tempted to send it back to Papa to wear with his flight boots. Do you want me to send it back? I believe I kept you fairly well up to date by postal cards and short letters before we got up here, and before you left on your trip, so I guess I'd better go back till when we came up here, which was September 8th, 1949. You knew that Mom, Dit, Bob, and the baby had gone with the Brown Sr. to Ocean City for the month's vacation gifted to Dit for producing their one grandchild. While we stayed on for the week at 936, we kept Dit's small black dog, the shaggy one having been sent to the SPCA as the most humane method of disposal. She was too old to be a child's pet and useless for anything else. However, she did not want to part with them both at once and felt that there'd be some protection with one. She hasn't enough sense to bark and welcomes anyone with lolling tongue and her nether half wagging furiously. But still she was to be some protection for Mom. She grieved over sending Shaggy Tiny away, so I said I'd keep Jippy for her till she got back. Did I ever wish I could knock my own teeth out for uttering those words? While we were there at 936, it wasn't too bad, but when we brought her up here, it was about all I could do to keep from jumping up and down. That dog cannot be passed by without description. She was a rat terrier, I think, much smaller than any of our dogs, and black, and with almost the same markings as Ace. Actually, she was a fairly smart dog, and had she been trained early, she might have been a pretty good dog. Very affectionate, she would be ideal for some old lady who needed the companionship a dog can offer. And how often was I reminded of Daddy saying, "Dogga, dogga, here is man's best friend." She reminded me of a woman I once knew, with a little round rotund body and tiny pipe-stem legs, and she actually minced along in her walk, just as that woman did. We started out by keeping her in the garage, and when she started shivering uncontrollably, as Bones did, I became a little afraid she was getting sick, and rather than be blamed for negligence, she rarely got her nose outside the door at Derby. I took her into the kitchen and kept her there. She would watch me constantly, and when I left the kitchen to go into one of the other rooms, she would quietly slip out of her box and follow me, keeping as close behind me as Frank's oft-mentioned rat seeking the cheese. If I stepped backwards, it was always to step on her foot. She'd shriek, and I'd jump as though shot, and then she'd scurry back to her box to weep and nurse her foot. Or she'd keep so close on my heels that I'd have to spin around to find her, and it didn't take very long for her to learn how to spin too. How many times would I leisurely meander into the living room to sit down for a moment and sit on that dog? She'd follow me in, and then during the time it took me to turn around and sit down, she'd jump up into the chair and be ready to yowl mightily when I sat. I could have kicked her broadside if I could have reached her. I had her for 3 weeks, and when she left I felt as though I'd been rid of roaches and missed her like a toothache or broken arm. Her swan song was to plaster the back footwell of the car as we were taking her home, and I'm sure we'll never keep Chippy again. We even took her with us to Ocean City when we went for the weekend, and right then and there Bob put his foot down and said positively he wouldn't have the dog. Until then he had argued against it, but hadn't said conclusively. Now it was decided. Mm-hmm.
So that had to have been fun. Mm-hmm. Having the dog, having the, for 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh goodness.
Just too much.
Yeah.
I'm sure Lewis had a great time with a dog running around. She doesn't describe that at all, but I'm sure they were the best of friends because Lewis always likes the animals, and maybe it was a distraction while she's trying to get stuff done moving. It's like, go play with the dog. I could see that happening. But this also, it's interesting because Bob puts his foot down, and from what I understand, I was talking with my dad about how much Dit got things and sort of got her way. She got her way quite a lot. So for Bob to put his foot down and be like, nope, not doing that. No, we're not keeping this dog. That was major, but it's also still very early into their relationship.
So they were thinking about having the dog with her? Because
I think so.
It seems like the dog was living at Collindale.
Yeah. So either way.
So Sweetie is already planning on getting some gardening done and getting some flower beds put into it. And so irises and Rosa Sharons definitely have those. Those are a Pennsylvania staple in landscaping, I think. Mm-hmm. And because the deer don't eat them.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
There's some of the only things I have that the deer haven't destroyed. But so she's getting some Rosa Sharons and she's getting some irises from Sydney and stuff, and that's really cool. Like she's able to get her house the way that she wants it. Yeah, and I love that. And also we see things here. She got Elizabeth's typewriter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah,
she got Elizabeth's typewriter. When this was one letter and I saw it was a typed one, I was so excited. Yeah. So what else?
She's trying to get Lou to get her to keep it. Dit doesn't want to give it up. Dit, what do you need it for? I don't think she gave it back, to be honest.
I mean, I don't think that Dit is doing a lot of letter writing at the shore.
Yeah, at the shore. You're at the shore. You're busy. You don't need this back. Maybe she'll just forget that Sweetie has her typewriter.
There's a couple times in letters and stuff when so they lived out there, and Chester and Laura got to spend time with Lewis. Mm-hmm. And so they got to know some of his mannerisms and the way that he referred to things. So I know that the snow snoot,
that has to be,
that's Lewis.
Yeah.
And that's probably something that, so she includes these little Lewisisms every once in a while. And I just love that.
That's so cute. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's it for the beginning portion of the letter. Then we're going into the next part as we hear more about the house. We borrowed 2 cups, 2 saucers, 3 plates, a coffee pot, a skillet, and 2 saucepans from Mom to await our things on the truck, and we were all delighted to see the truck drive up. It was a rainy day, and so they pulled the truck up close to the door. Some things got sprinkled on, but nothing was damaged, and with newspapers thick on the floor, things didn't get tracked up too badly. I can't believe I ever worked so hard with so little accomplished as I did in those days following. My short temper and lack of incentive was what decided us to go to Ocean City. I wasn't much better off, and had to work just as hard to get anything done. The furniture that we bought secondhand had to be washed and polished. The woman had used Simonize on it, and it was encrusted with dust and wax. By the time it had had 2 or 3 good soapings, it was several shades lighter, and much prettier. My own furniture sitting for a year was in poor condition, too, and so I had to give it the same treatment. Another thing was this. Marguerite and Joe were expected from New York, as Joe had just returned from summer stock in Maine, and so I wanted to get things in apple pie order for them. It so happened that they didn't come until just last Sunday, and by then I'd done what I wanted to do. We bought Venetian blinds on sale for all but the 2 front windows that had to be made special, but they come in 64-inch lengths for economy's sake. I had to buy the 2 long ones and cut them off to suit myself. Time-consuming and piddling as can be. But now things are taking shape. We are still waiting for the 2 front blinds. We're still goldfish in an open bowl. There are no curtains up because I want to get pull drape fixtures and make heavy drapes for wintertime. I wrote to Sister at least about our bargain in rugs, and I must cut and bind some of them to fit. And there is much mending and patching that needs to be done, as well as a little Christmas sewing I would like to do. I don't think I'd be this far along without the dexedrine, and yet I've really tried to take it sparingly, as I think I have. When we got home from the shore, Lou was on cruise, you know, and Louis and I came home alone. He slept with me while Lou was gone, and I noticed he was sniffing, and during the night ran a heavy fever, and untying the ribbon from the sulfa bottle, I started the routine care. He gets sulfa sick, you know, and was very nauseated. At one time he cried, screamed with pain in his stomach, but rapidly improved. Then I got it, and was really sick both from the cold and sulfa for nearly a week. As it is, there is still infection in my nose, which makes my head ache, and makes me dizzy too. Then Lou got it, and the sulfa bottle has really made the rounds. Again, I'm surely grateful to have had it, the pink tablets, and the cough syrup. I think if I could get my nose cleared up, I'd be okay. Louis sneaked a cane J in on me there, and both the boys are okay now.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering about that line where he says, Louis sneaked a cane J in on me there.
Yeah.
And then I finally just realized what it was. Yeah. So she was typing, I think if I could get my nose cleared up, I'd be okay. Then there's a J.
Yeah, randomly.
And then he lets everybody know Louis came here and pushed the J.
Yep. Yeah, Louis is walking over, like, oh, are you ready? Click.
And then he probably walked off.
She's like, or I'm not like, bad at typer.
Like, no.
And she explains it. Yeah. So
okay, so that was why, but I think that's cute.
It's really cute. Yeah. And this is also a good point just to mention, since we're paused here for a moment. The dexedrine and or Dexy, or Dex as they called it at the time, and the sulfa medications, again, just becoming the constant staple in the household. Now, again, today, call your doctor. Standard disclaimer. This is medical stuff from the 1940s. You need to talk to your doctor. This is in no way to be received as medical advice. But yeah, that was really common at the time. So she's saying, I'm holding back a little bit. Today, dexedrine is extremely regulated. And then the sulfa, yeah, we've talked about this before. This is the miracle drug. This is usually to fight things like pneumonia and stuff. But the minute he has a sniffle, you know,
untie that ribbon off that sulfa bottle.
Yeah, and now it's going around the family. So, and she's even saying it's making him nauseated because it's strong, powerful stuff. This is the stuff that during World War II Churchill was taking to get over pneumonia. Like, and he's taking it as a kid. So it was just so much used at the time. But Dr. Roby, the good doctor at the Naval Hospital, said, no. You know, be careful with all of that. But yeah, be careful today. Talk to your doctor with all these medications, but that's the history of a lot of it at the time. Louis does get homesick for James Dale, Tacona, Grandpa, and Grandma. Em and Bill are the outstanding memories at Bolton's, and of course, Aunt Jean. He is growing up so quickly, and he asks so many questions, I cannot think while I'm working. For instance, I was putting towels away in the linen closet, and he came up and was kibitzing, asked as he swung on the doorknobs, Why are these here? Huh, Mama? Why are these here? I looked up from my wool gathering and quite sore at him for asking what are doorknobs, for after he'd been using them for years. So I said, Go into the bathroom, and I shut the door from the outside, turning the knob exaggeratedly to illustrate. Then I said, Now you open it. He did, and I said, See? One knob is to shut it from the outside, and one knob is to open it from the inside. He looked at me with the same look of exasperation and impatience I'd given him only minutes before, marched me back to the linen closet lined with shelves, and said, I know, but nobody opens the door from inside the linen closet. Why did they put one in there? When we baked his birthday cake, he gets such pleasure out of the decorator that I decided he could help. And when I was through with each color, he took the squirter and used up the remaining icing on a sheet of waxed paper, which of course became candy. I'd turned it over to him, dashed out to the bedroom to get a hanky for my runny nose. He came charging after me, and I went back to see his accomplishments. Look, Mama, see what I made? I didn't want to appear so stupid as to be unable to see what he'd made, so while I was saying, Sure, that's fine, he threw back his head with a big grin and typical Louis chuckle said, Yes, I think that's a pretty good post hole. And there was a circle of icing showing the waxed paper through in the middle. Lou's troublemaking lieutenant at the base has a foreign name. Sounds like Petulus, but he has been dubbed Batchy by the boys, and when Lou comes home to tell of the goings-on, he has referred to him the same way. Lou comes home from the base for lunch now that we're so close, and one noon in the lull of eating, Lewis pops up with, "Well, Daddy, what did Batchy have to say today?" And how like my own dad, asking what happened at school today. He still has a few baby ways and expressions, but he is growing up so fast. He gets by mixed up, and often says, "Daddy put the shovel right by the garage door." Everything is right by. If we correct him once a dozen times, the next time it always comes out the same, though he remembers everything else. He often comes to me remembering something that happened in our old blue house. He means when we lived in Norwood. He is very proud of our new red house, and remembers very clearly Grandpa and Grandma, and the layout of the house, even to where the old machinery sat, and which piece sat where. The boy who was best man at our wedding looked Lou up, and then stopped here on his way home. Lou has heard the Model A Ford he drives, and Fords, by the way, are seldom seen. He tore to the door, expecting, I'm sure, to see Papa, and inquired if he had his grandpa's Ford. Joe said no, it is mine, and Lewis said, as though to ease his own feelings, well, it is as bad as Grandpa's anyway. He goes across to see the neighbor lady, and so far his loot has been quite profitable. She has kept us in tomatoes since we arrived, but we've also had fresh lima beans, fresh spinach, potatoes, and flowers. I had quite an experience with her.
And this is where we're going to take a little break.
Before we get into that story.
Because we're going to get into that story, but oh my gosh. Something that we have missed in these recent episodes and letters is descriptions of Lewis.
Yeah.
And things that he's been doing. And she just gave us a whole bunch of great stories. Which is so great because, you know, he gets to hear this stuff too, which I love about himself and like things that he used to say. And how absolutely clever. He's like, why is there a doorknob on the inside of the linen closet? Like,
the way kids think about that kind of stuff, you know?
That's very the powers of observation and critical thinking. He's like, there was be nobody in there, so why? I love that. And then that cadence that he had with it, I can imagine he probably was like, so what's Batchy doing today?
Yeah, he's imitating his dad.
Like very casual and like very manly, like even though he's just little.
Yeah, and speaking of that, they talked about the birthday cake. So his birthday was near the end of September. So he is now, little Lewis is 4 years old.
Is he 4?
He's 4 at this point. Yeah, all of a sudden, Lewis is now a 4-year-old.
That is so cute. And then when they grow up, it's actually, this kind of reminds me, my boy, we were walking on a path in Great Smoky Mountains. We were walking in a path. And my daughter and husband were like farther behind looking at stuff, and I was walking forward. And we were walking down the path, and somebody else was walking the other way, and they said, there's bears that way. So we turned around and went back. You know, we kind of had this like, there's bears around. We have to be careful.
Yeah.
So I'm walking down, and my little boy's little, and he's like walking in front, and I always say, get behind me. Like, if, you know, I was like, get behind me if there's a problem, you know, get behind me so I know where you're at and I can deal with the situation. We're walking along. He goes, Mom, get behind me. And I was like, He was like protecting. He's like, this is what we do for protection. You get behind me. I'm like, you're 6, but that's cute.
Yeah.
But so it's like when they see those little like, no, I'm just remembering. You see that growth, and you see the person that they're going to eventually be.
Yeah, the character really starting to develop at this point. We've seen some of these moments in the past, but you're right, the absence of like these little stories because she's been so preoccupied. Yeah. And now she's got that typewriter. She's like, okay, I can tell a Lewis story because you know the family does want to hear about some of these antics as well as they're coming up, the little phrases and things that she's got going on. And then we get the note that Lou is home for lunch. So that's how close his work is. He can get home for lunch and back.
That's so great for him, and like for her too, like that they picked this house that they were able to find something so close to his work, especially because the car's been having trouble too.
Yeah. Oh, and the roof, the blue house versus the red house. This is about the roof. That's how, it's not that it's painted red. And I just want to be very clear about that. It's that the roof color is red. So, and I believe it probably still is today. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But yeah, so Norwood, from this we glean, at least the perception of little Lewis, must have had a darker or a blue type roof.
But now that Sweetie has his typewriter, and is able to talk about things, we're going to get some nice stories, some good stories.
Ooh, and here comes, I think, the feature story. Like there's this letter is broken into 5 parts. I think this third part is the best part of the letter. So here we go. When we were first driving along house hunting and came across this house for sale with the real estate dealer's name on the sign in front, I went over to ask if I could use her phone to call up the dealer or agent so as to save driving down to Willow Grove and then back up. I took money in my hand to pay the toll. Her 16-year-old son was sitting on the porch, greeted me cordially, said surely I could use the phone, started me through the door, and she came to meet me. I repeated my request, and was astounded into open-mouthed speechlessness by her blunt, "No, my telephone is in my bedroom. I see no reason for people to be running in to use my phone. Going through my house, there's nothing in those houses for me, and I'd just as soon not let you use it." I thanked her and walked out and back to the car, cussing her mightily. Well, when we moved in and were working here, I very carefully did not even look in her direction, saying to myself, the houses are far enough apart that I'll not be rubbing elbows with her very often, and who cares? Still, when we're so far out, it did seem a shame to have such an old bat so close. I said to myself, "Okay, you old witch, just stay on your broomstick, and when you want something or need something, I'm going to make you feel like the first-class heel you must be." A couple of weeks after we got here, I turned that dog out, and being busy, I didn't watch her quite as closely as I should have. She was absolutely devoid of any sense as far as traffic was concerned. I turned her out one morning, and she went sailing across the street to sniff. When she got to the middle of the road, here came a big semi-truck. She heard the rumble, and in her stupid fright, cowered belly flat on the road with her ears laid back, and the semi nearly upended itself. As the guy stomped on the brakes, the driver put his head out the window, thrashed his arms wildly about, cussed long and loud at both her house and mine, since he didn't know to whom she belonged, while Jippy slunk up the driveway to the house. I hid in my goldfish bowl, so that I could see and not be seen, and after catching my breath, used a few of the driver's words on her myself. The woman must have seen it too, for on this particular day, she came bringing her home, warned me to watch her, or we'd have a dead dog, introduced herself as Mrs. Carl Riesselmann. She is Scotch with a fading burr. Her husband is from Holland. She apologized for the telephone incident, explaining that all the time the house was being built, the workmen were asking her for water, and finally it got to the place where they asked her to warm their soup for lunch, or chip up ice cubes for their thermos bottles, and used the telephone very frequently to order more supplies, etc. And on the particular day I wanted to use the phone, she had stripped her beds and was airing the rooms. She watched me come across the yard and said to herself, "She's not going to get in here today." And I didn't. Well, she sent over the garden truck, and so on Lewis's birthday, I took them each a piece of birthday cake. She has 2 sons. One graduated from Catholic high school this year, and one graduates next year. They must be close to 17 and 18. And the next day, when she had returned my plate by one of the boys, he brought along a nice box of lollipops for Lewis. Just last week, she had complained of feeling punk, and now finds out that she will expect their 3rd baby in May. She is 39, and her husband is 59. I'm trying to be careful not to have another Dottie on my hands, but I don't think I need worry, for she very subtly told me the other day that some neighbors were too neighborly to suit her, and she was happy to get her own way at her own pleasure. Her home meant lots to her, and she preferred to stay close to home. She does, and so do I. However, I couldn't resist a little dig at her, and she took it well. We were wondering together when the people would be moving into our twin house on the other half-acre, and she said she thought the husband looked a little Italian or Armenian. I said, I don't care what they are, as long as they have a telephone. When she told me about the baby, I said just as soon as that child gets to the place where it can understand words of 1 syllable, I'm going to make sure he appreciates the value of a telephone. She is red-headed, quite small, weighing usually 116 pounds, and maybe just a bit taller than I. She loves flowers, and her yard is beautiful. She is really genuinely pleased about the baby now that the initial surprise has worn off, and brought over to me a practically new brown corduroy skirt, saying she was sure she'd never be able to get into it again, and she could see no need to hoard it when I could use it. The people aren't into the other twin house yet. I understand that they made settlement on the 12th, but they live just a short distance away in a housing project where they bought 2 years ago. And I guess they are trying to sell that place first. They have deliberately snubbed us, and I've washed my hands of her too, and unless she makes the first move, so far as I'm concerned, the house will remain empty. I saw her out the other day, and she looked as though she has about 3 months before her second baby is due. She has a little girl, about 2.5.
That's the end of that story, but oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
The arc between her and like meeting the neighbors and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I really appreciate that the neighbor said, hey, this was why you couldn't use my phone, because I was getting tired of it. And she had finally had enough, and I totally understand that. And that was incredibly rude of the builders to assume that they could use her phone and
ask
she
her to
could
do all these
stuff.
other things.
Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
but oh my goodness, too. And now she's 39, has an 18 and a 17-year-old, and she's expecting another baby. Well, I'm glad.
Yep.
That's very nice. But goodness, this is just like, but we got like a huge amount of information from this.
Oh, a ton. We get the whole picture of the neighborhood, which is 3 houses. It's Mrs. Riesselmann, it's Sweetie, and then this like twin lot. So there must have been an acre lot that was split into 2. The builder made a same looking house, and there's supposed to be another couple that's there, but they live in the area, so they're not really there, and they're snubbing Mrs. Riesselmann and Sweetie. So with that going on, they're like, well, whatever to all of that. That's the neighborhood. These three families that are here and not here if you're the other couple. She's such an interesting character in the story that comes along. And I love how Sweetie's like, I don't want another Dottie, because, Dottie was nice, but there's something, and I think this remains the case, there's something of a kindred spirit with Mrs. Riesselmann, and they both sense it. They both don't want people too neighborly, but they want to be neighborly. They want their own space. They love their home. They take pride in what they're doing, and they're coming from strong traditions and things like that. We're going to see that a lot coming up. The neighbors taking care of each other without being, dependent
on top of each other.
Yeah.
And I do like how they subtly let each other know about their personalities, and she's like, and she gave it back to her, and they respected each other for it. Like, and I definitely can relate to Miss Riesselmann, because it's like, I also love to be at home. I also love my things, and I also don't want my neighbors to ever come and visit me ever. Leave me alone. I mean, we wave, and I love everybody. And my neighborhood is actually a pretty decent neighborhood. Like, we live in the neighborhood that my husband's brother moved to when he got married. So he's just very close to us. And that's part of the reason why we came here. And it's an older neighborhood, and we all have big lots, and we pretty much, it's family. We all know each other. So, but we're not on top of each other. And that's what she wanted too. But she also, like Mrs. Riesselmann, and I hope we're saying it, Mrs. Riesselmann.
That's right. Yeah, it is Riesselmann. Yeah.
She sends over like food and clothes. So she's like, this is good. They're friendly with one another. And I think that they did sense that there was a kindred spirit. I like that.
Yeah. My dad does remember Mrs. Riesselmann. I don't think he really remembers Dottie, but he remembers Mrs. Riesselmann. So it's so great. And there's also this concept of these two are kindred in another way. She says that Mrs. Riesselmann's husband is from Holland. And we get the idea that she probably was not originally from Pennsylvania. Sweetie's from Iowa. So there's this idea of like the 3 houses that are there, 2 of them are essentially like foreigners to the area, even though Sweetie's from Iowa. It's that fish out of water. She's also got that going on, where they're surrounded by new sprawl. They're surrounded by, I want to say, the Ditts of the world, the other couple snubbing them. They may have been a Pennsylvania family. These are the outsiders that are like coming in and living in Pennsylvania. So for one to be probably from another country, we know certainly her husband was from Holland. And then post-war, Sweetie coming from Iowa, they're just coming from different backgrounds, so they don't have to explain why certain things are not normal for them, at least not yet. So I love that they also have that connection of like an immigration kind of story into the area that's going on.
And that's a very good point. I moved to Pennsylvania to live permanently in like 2008.
Yep.
And I can tell you it took me years to feel comfortable. Now I can get around, like I feel so much more comfortable. And there is actually, it's very funny, and I don't know if this is the way out in the East, but in the Southwest they have a particular way of talking, and for years it actually took me a long time. I was very confused discussing things with people because they will ask you the same question. They will ask you, when are yins leaving? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
They like do a double question thing. And so like once you start to learn the cadence, you can be like, so what do you think you're doing up there? And it's like a you know, and it's really funny because it's true. It does take a long time to get acclimated to the culture.
Yeah.
And it's not that different, although the United States is a huge country. I'm sorry, it's incredibly diverse
of our country. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and things are different in the Midwest than they are on the West Coast, and things are different on the East Coast than they are in Iowa. So that is a very good point that they kind of do have that connection.
Yeah. So like that. Yeah, Mrs. Riesselmann, we're going to hear a lot about Mrs. Riesselmann in the future. This is not a one-time character. So yeah, it's great.
In my head, she's got a Scottish accent, so anytime she talks,
for sure. Yeah.
she totally has a Scottish accent, which I love.
Yep.
But I hope I'm really excited to learn more about her. But we still do have a lot more to go from this giant letter. So let's move on to the next part.
Mama and Papa, I repeat, I will return the flight pants for Papa to wear for a snowsuit, if you say so. They are warmly lined, and I really don't need them. I'm seriously contemplating making Louis a snowsuit out of the other pair. I'm afraid they'd be homemadey, and I'd like to have them dyed so they lose their olive drab appearance, and I'm afraid that would not be very satisfactory in the long run. I left my red coat hanging in a cleaner bag on the back of the dining room door, and I shall need it soon, for aside from my fur coat, I don't have anything very heavy. So far my blue gabardine, like cotton coat, has served okay, though it is short. My fur coat is in storage at Yonkers. I think that if Jean would give them my address, they would mail it to me post-paid, and save Jean the trouble and expense of doing it. Take special note of this, Jean. I think the red coat is all I left there that I need. You're right, I did find the pillows in the sea bag, and I was as delighted as if it had been money. I'd borrowed some of G-Mom Graham's, and they were chicken feathers or something equally waddy, and those are so much more comfortable. I used 2 on our bed and only 1 on Louis's, as we borrowed Big Lou's single bed from Mom, and so the one with the German feathers is put away. I feel somewhat guilty in taking that. I know how you prized it, and those, or rather, it can be included with the foul-weather pants if you say so. I'm sending to the folks 3 pictures, save them for me, taken at Ocean City. I think I see a resemblance to our Bob in them. Do you? These are all I have, and so must be sent the round robin if anyone wants to see them. I remember with a sudden jerk that it is nearly a year since Daddy's heart attack, and sincerely hope there's somebody riding hard on him for me. Jean, sister, next time you get home, give him a good nagging for me, and when Christmas night comes, lock all the doors and take the receiver off the hook, and keep him home. I guess you're doing your fall planting, and laying in fuel, and preparing rabbit protectors. Oh yes, I meant to tell you that in unpacking, we came across the grass that goes into the Easter baskets. Louis asked what it was for, and when I told him about the Easter rabbit, he said, "Do you suppose that is the one Grandpa shot in Tacona?" I hope you're both well, and when it comes to writing, we could both do better.
All right, I'm going to pause here real quick. Yeah. Me too, because this is the thing that's been hinted at in so many other letters, and now we get the confirmation of what exactly happened to Chester and why they're worried. He had a heart attack, so.
And it was, she said nearly a year, so it was last October, like around that time. Oh my goodness. And so no wonder she's so worried about him.
Yeah, and the reason we didn't get the update, of course, is when we think back to like October 48, it's the time when they're in Lacona, so she's not really writing. Everybody knows what's going on. And then we get into the Merchant Marine letters where there's like no content from Sweetie. So it goes a mystery until here. And we can put that on the timeline.
Thank goodness she was in Lacona during that time.
Yeah. And Lou was too. So if there was anything going on at the farm, remember he takes the farm photos around October, November, because we can tell from those photos. There's an album of this online for those that are wondering about those pictures, the Lacona, Iowa ones from 48. We know that his shower outside showers built. So that's right about the same time that this is going on. Lou's probably doing a lot at the farm while Chester's out of commission, essentially, at least for a time there. And then he travels. Remember, he leaves. They go to see family, and she's manning the office. So this fills in a lot of what was going on back there. There was a whole scare and a concern. And she's saying, lock the doors, don't let him do too much work, because that is what Chester will do. So we'll see. But then we get this funny moment with the Easter rabbit. Yep.
Sister, Bill, and kids, I've enjoyed your cards and letters, even though I've done a poor job of writing in return. I guess your furnace is installed now, and with your washer you should be enjoying the life of the filthy and idle rich. The oil burner of ours is a source of daily pleasure to me. On cool mornings, when I get up at about 6:30, I turn it on. It may run for 15 to 20 minutes when it goes off. And if the sun is out, the sun and the insulation keep the burner off the rest of the day. I do not believe it is going to cost us much to heat this house. It is well insulated and seems nice and tight. We may get storm windows for part of the house this year and part next year, though that remains to be seen yet. I didn't find out where you put the automatic washer, nor do I know what kind of oil burner you got either. Ours is gun-type blower, and it sucks the cold air as it blows the hot. I'm interested in what sewing you've done for the kids for their school. I've missed seeing Dee. Well, in my mind's eye, I can picture him. It is a picture that is outdated now, and when you wrote he had more teeth, I surely did wish I could lull him to sleep again. Elizabeth and Bob's little Bobby is as near like him in disposition as any baby I've ever known, but he is very, very blond and fair with blue eyes and straight blonde hair, what little he has. See picture with his dad. He lies contentedly and cries rarely. He is really sweet. I often contrast. Listen to that, will you? I mean, compare them. And then it hits as suddenly that young D is about to celebrate his birthday, as is young Maida's A. And I've never even seen her. As I said before, I've enjoyed your letters, but I missed part of your sermon in this last letter and ask that henceforth you make your point more directly. For instance, the card mentioning the 10 o'clock a.m. radio program with the pointed remarks, I've not the slightest idea what that would be, and I'm eaten alive with curiosity. What kind of gift did your friends give you without enclosing a card? And this most recent letter, aside from your card this morning, was not clear to me entirely. I am in harmony with some of your ideas, but without going into it too deeply right here, I can say this. I agree that there is some divine guidance and divine control, but not entirely as self-determination can control a great deal of circumstances. As for professing to be something of which you are incapable of being, that has never come from me, such a statement as that, I mean. And in fact, I think you are wise in setting your ideals or goals ever a little higher to be the pushing factor to achieve a little more, and a little more shoving may help you to the last surge of energy to attain what heretofore has been only a distant goal. I do not have the ability to express in words just what I think. Rather, I cannot say what I think and make it understandable to someone else. Achieving the most from what you have to work with, however small or insignificant it may seem in the beginning, is a challenge, and once you've accomplished one thing, it is a great incentive to look for something equally insignificant, but with some potential qualities. I am surprised you think I would condemn our family for its being old. On the other hand, and to the contrary, we have all the more right to be proud of, to prolong the life of, and praise our own family, keep its tradition and remembrances, its history alive, to implant it in our children, and the succeeding generations to come. Hence the Demaree history. But I also feel that perhaps the family should be making its own history, rather than revel in the glory of past generations. I shall be glad to hear from you in more detail, and for my dullard's brain, more directly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, this was something that Allison and I talked about before.
Yeah.
Because this last passage that she was writing to sister, we don't know what's in regards to.
Right.
But like she doesn't know what to say, but she does. And it really was beautiful. And I understand she's a little bit all over the place. But I really think that she made some beautiful points here.
Yeah, a number of them in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're used to seeing this kind of writing when she's giving romantic advice to Jean. And now she's giving practical advice. I think there's like 3 main points she's going for. One is something about things that are just going to happen by fate versus self-determination. The second point has to do with achieving what you can and what's reasonable and just pushing yourself harder to the next point. And then the third is respecting the family histories, which seems to be some sort of contest between maybe sister kind of wants to separate from the Boltons, maybe sort of separating from the Demarees. And she's like, no, but there's something important here with the Demarees. But we can't just always revel in the glory of the past generations, as she says. And the way she just lays it out, all in like, it's so densely packed in there. But she's really thinking this is a philosophic moment of this letter.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this is something that, I think, well, I know women have a certain way of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just so much in your head that it's very important. Journaling is something that will help like so many problems. Like this is journaling and getting your thoughts out on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, she knew what she wanted to say. She knew how she felt, but she had to put words to it.
Right.
And when she has her typewriter and she's able to do this string of consciousness, that's when we get these true nuggets of wisdom. Because you can, I mean, this is going to be something I read through it the first time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I really want to hear Allison saying this in Sweetie's voice. Because this project, this podcast is part of her legacy.
Yeah.
And it's part of the things that she pushing to be better. Like this is something that I want people to know, like how awesome this woman was.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing this. And that's that push. It's that like we recognize how great some of the things, and and even just having a child and putting Lewis out in the world.
Yeah.
Is such an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like even just like that, even though maybe she doesn't look at that as a, but she put that wonderful person in this world.
Yeah.
And it's very deep. And honestly, this is going to be something that I'm going to have to come back to a couple more times.
Yeah. It's like there's just so much going on. There's so much to think about by these words that she lays down. And as we were just talking right now, I was looking at our copy of it in the third part about the family, where she says, she's upset. Something she says, I'm surprised that you think I would condemn our family for its being old. And she says, no, we have all the more right to be proud of to prolong the life of and praise our own family, keep its tradition and remembrances, its history alive, to implant it in our children and the succeeding generations to come. Hence the Demaree history. Now, the Demaree histories are published. There's actually a 2-volume set of the Demaree histories. But regardless, even if she was just talking generally, to me, I'm like, is she talking about the published books or is she talking about the history generally? She knows there's a lot going on there. But I also feel that perhaps the family should be making its own history rather than revel in the glory of past generations. And this is so applicable, not just to the Demarees. And that's also the big point of the podcast, that every family thinks about this at some point. People in all the different groups think about this. The idea of the families are cherished all the way back, however new or old the families are. But you can't get stuck in the past with the families either. So it's just, I hope that Sweetie's story is all of our story and how she reviews this. And I think the way she handles it and what she's given as the legacy, she talks about like the Demaree story. I can't think of a more documented Demaree story in history once everything's going to be out there than Sweetie's as the representative. But it's that ability at like breaking the fourth wall almost, to step back. She's stepping back from herself and saying, no, this is how this is going to go. And it becomes just a timeless passage in here.
Yes. And she has done that before too.
Yep.
When she gets her typewriter.
Yeah. Yeah, she could just go. Yeah.
Where it's all over. It's all over.
It's game over. Yeah. Amazing.
This you're right. This is applicable to anybody at any moment in time.
Yeah. Insert your family name and there you go. It plays exactly the same way. So it's a great way to articulate it as she arrives at that final conclusion. And then she's hard on herself. Just like, I don't know. She throws it away and goes to the next part. One thing outside of the whole philosophy, which again, there's so much we can just get into there. Outside of just that philosophical moment, we get the mention of D. And this had come up before, and I actually hadn't mentioned it, and I had to check with my dad just to be sure. I'm like, is this who I think this is? This is the 4th grandchild from the Boltons, which means during that time in Lacona, again, because there's no letters. In the last couple episodes ago, we got the mention of A, which is Frank's and Maida's 3rd kid. This is the 4th child. This is another grandson through sister's family, through Margaret or Lizzie. So the Demarees have Chester and Laura have once again another grandchild. So 4 grandchildren from the Bolton side of the family, 3 grandchildren at this point from Frank and Maida's side of the family, 2 grandchildren from Florence and Bob's side, and Lewis. So 4, 3, 2, 1, right down the line.
And then Jean.
Jean. Right, we'll find out, what's going to happen there. Right, yeah.
So it's all of them.
She's having a lot of dates and stuff, but
no, Jean's fine. Yeah. Jean's fine. Yeah. Jean's done what she needed to do. She kept all these letters. Yeah. Thank you, Aunt Jean.
But that's the reference to that earlier in that part. And then we head into this final portion of the letter, the 5th portion of this gigantic letter. And thank you to Dit for willingly, unwillingly volunteering her typewriter to Sweetie for this.
Frank and family. Jean wrote me about the visit there, and I surely did wish I might have shared it all with them. She expressed such appreciation of Maida's kindness to Clifford that I feel grateful too, and must add my thanks. I felt sort of sorry for him for a long time, and since he does appreciate such kindness, it is fine of you to offer him such hospitality. I regret my buying the wringer washer, and wish that I had the automatic now. It is a case of making my own bed, but I do regret it. The washer is hard on the floor. It is as unhandy as any arrangement could be, and I'm truly sorry. Trying to be economical, I'm paying daily for it in mental anguish and broken back, once the job is done. Jean, I salute you, and I apologize to you. Anyone who takes the time and goes to the trouble to write such a letter as the long one certainly does, deserves a prompt answer, and I've fallen down there. As late as it is in expressing my thanks, I do thank you. For through it, I just went on the trip with you. I got so tickled in reading about selling Aunt Celia, the magazine, that Lou nearly lost track of the story. I could just see it and laughed, and I've already stretched this one out to the point where I can't go into it very far now either. So I shall thank you again, and try to go through it soon, and do it justice. I shall send the Kessel papers for you to battle out, and right now I must ask, what kind of adjustment did Yonkers make about your girdles, and how did you repair them? I must fix mine some way, and need advice. Both of them are torn, just as yours did. What do you weigh? What does Clifford have to say? I get a lot of fun from your letters, am interested in your cases, and hope you'll not feel slighted with such a letter as this one. I could write this many pages in answer to your letter, and in asking questions, but to cover the family in one session, I must limit each. I shall try soon, but hope you'll not feel too badly about this one. Florence, I have been hoping to hear from you soon. I wish I could have spent more time with you than just to wave hello, but I shall hope to make amends for that in the future. There is so much I'd like to hear about your 2 kids. Is KM in school? What hours are you working? You have a good typewriter there, and you might just as well get it to working. I'd surely be pleased. And if you could add carbons, as I do, you'd please the rest of the family too. Oh, yes, I want to ask you, Papa. I've noticed since Lewis has had this last cold, he seems to be talking through his nose. Not constantly, only on some consonants, and I notice at times he breathes through his mouth while he is asleep. This has been in the last month since his cold, and while his cold seems to be almost entirely cleared up, I suppose it could be that. But do you think it likely his adenoids have enlarged much, and could be causing it? I do not want him to become a mouth breather, or talk with the nasal na, and wonder what you would suggest. It is high time for Lou to be coming home, and my lunch dishes are still sitting on the table just as we got up and left them. I want to tell you this change in routine due to moving closer has handicapped me in a way. We used to get up at 5:45 or 6, now it is 6:30. Louis used to sleep until 9 most times, and lately he gets up when we do, and by the time I get Louis dressed and his breakfast taken care of, etc., it just hustles me terribly to get that geranium leaf picked off before Lou gets home at 11:15 for lunch. He leaves at 12:15, and if Lewis is cross and crabby, tross and trabby, as James Dale says, I take time out to read him a book and down for a nap. He sleeps lightly, so that I try to go do the quiet jobs while he rests, and by the time I get myself turned around once or twice, I must get dinner ready, as Lou gets home by 5:15, and wants to sit down to the table as soon as he walks in the door, and washes his hand. Our car is in very sad shape. It got to the place where we could not start it. Grinding away on it took the battery down and accomplished nothing. Lou put in new valves and it does start, but we seem to be pouring good money after bad, and hope that cars soon come down to where we can get a decent second-hand one, without paying for years to come. I must stop now. Ask any questions you want to, and I'll write often while I have the typewriter. I do not want to keep it too long, so ask fast. I'll go into more detail about the house next time if possible. Love to everybody. Papa, do be careful in this weather. Don't take cold, or work too hard, and write me about the plants, the adenoids, and how you are. Love to all of you. Sweetie, Lou, and Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was a heck of a letter.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And with that, we've already moved into mid-October. Now, we spent a lot of time in August, and then September, there was a lot of back and forth, and we were waiting on the truck. The last thing we heard was September 18th. And she'd said at the beginning of the letter, I have to catch up like all of September, and she does. So we arrive here at the end of October. They're in the house. They're starting to get into a routine. And what we're going to be coming up on is, of course, the holidays of 1949.
I know, I just want to point out, too, that we learned, number one, that Elizabeth, sister, not dead, sister, had another baby. So that's 4. We just learned that today. We learned Chester had a heart attack.
Yep.
That's freaking crazy. You know, and then we got to meet her new neighbors. Like, this was a lot. This is a big letter.
Yeah.
We that's a lot of like major updates. But one thing that I was really very much looking forward to is seeing the pictures of the house.
So, as I mentioned before, we do have one more picture of Collingdale. We uploaded this to the website. So it's sort of like a before and after. Here's where she was living as she waited, right? And then we get to see the picture of the house, which is quite wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Collingdale picture real quick, and then that'll be on the website so everybody can see it. But it's such a great picture, and it also speaks to something back from the early 1900s, which I think is fascinating. And I know I'm keeping everybody laying away for that photo of County Line Road, just a little bit, just a hair longer. Here is the clear photo of Collingdale. Now, this was on a postcard, okay, which may sound unusual. Like, why is there a postcard of a private home? That was a thing in the early 1900s. So we know the picture we've seen before with Marguerite and Sydney standing in front, the trees are so much closer to the house. They're not obscuring the house in this. So we know this is probably the earliest photo of Collingdale to exist. And it has the traditional, this is the actual document, it has the traditional postcard on the back. People did that to document. That's how they would say, hey, here's the family. Here's the picture of the house. These picture postcards can be quite valuable. If you have them in your family collections, absolutely hang on to them, because especially if they're family homes and things like this, they're the earliest evidence of what was there. Sometimes they're the only evidence of what houses were on a street. Sometimes they're street photos and things like that. They're starting to become quite expensive to get people's hands on, because historians and local areas, they all know they have an interest, and it's the only visual documentation of what was there at the time. So, but anyway, great picture of Collingdale.
So this was nice. This is a large house.
Yeah. Sydney trying to manage this on her own at this point. It's too much. Now we get the full picture of just how large. But County Line Road, from the very old house and the very old photo, we go to the new photo from 1949. Sweetie does manage to get the builder's photo. Nice. They do give it to her, and that's what she is psyched to have. So let me bring up this one. Oh, I'm so excited to share it because she was so excited to get it. And she mentioned that she was going to ask for it, and they did give it to her. So great. Here it is. And this is County Line Road.
Look.
Isn't that a darling?
It is so cute. Like, so she has like, and there's like some little fence up here at the front entrance, and they have the side door. That's got to be the kitchen.
Yep.
And look at how sweet. And so this had a red roof.
That's the red roof. Yep. Mm-hmm. Notice the tree line in the background. That's not there anymore. I guarantee you that is not there. So this is the half acre, and then the twin house would be on the other half acre, which is that other family. I love that we get the builder's name. It's never been talked about, but because the photo is preserved, we know we can see it's R. Leon Weir, builder, Hatboro, Pennsylvania. Neat. That's how we also can be sure of that. And then, of course, here's the little connected garage that's being talked about a little bit. She barely mentions the garage, but we get to see that evidence there.
This is what we call, this is, my husband calls it this, it makes me laugh all the time, no headroom bedrooms.
Yeah.
The Cape Cods that have like so you know that upstairs, while there was space, it was probably like a Cape Cod-y thing. So it's like not, it'd be better for children's rooms or whatnot.
Yeah.
But we do know that, like from this picture, you can see that there's definitely a second floor that she references.
Yeah.
It's such a nice little sweet, like perfect starter home for her and Lou.
Yeah.
Although, oh my gosh, no, they already had one place, but this is the first place they bought.
This is like the real, they really feel their ownership in this one. Now, what's interesting is fast forward to today, because we're wondering, if you noticed on the letter, it just said County Line Road, RFD, and then it says Hatboro, Pennsylvania. This is actually on the Bucks County side of County Line Road. The tree line behind is gone today. We get to see a large yard in front. So the street actually runs in front of the home, but at least there's this much yard for Lewis to run around in and not be in the street, so there wasn't as much yard in the front at Norwood. And if people are wondering, is this house, we know that like Collingdale's gone, it's now an intersection. Collingdale's completely gone. The 936. Then we get to the Norwood home, 37 Love Lane. That is not the same house that's there today. That one's gone. So the question becomes, is this house still there today? And yes, it is. So
it was built very well.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's what she said. She said it was built very well. So this one withstood the test of time. Well, of course, this was brand new in 1949.
Right.
So
it hasn't really changed too much. I think there was a little expansion added to like the back or something like this. But this house is there today. And I don't feel bad about saying that for the current residents that are there today, because notice that tree line's gone. And there's a lot of houses in this area now. The whole time Sweetie's living here, there's no house number on it. There's a house number on it now. I'm not going to tell you what it is. So if you happen to be driving up County Line Road, which is one of the major roads of the county, if you're coming from the Philadelphia area, and if you live in this area, you know what I'm talking about, like 2nd Street Pike or Bustleton, and you're driving up the county line, it's the line that divides Bucks County from Montgomery County, and you get to Route 611, which is the old Easton Road, called as such because it is the thing that connected Philadelphia to Easton. That's important. That's one of the old, that's 1700s, right? But that's 611. If you're coming up from that direction and heading up to 611, right before you get to 611 on the right-hand side, you'll notice a number of the old houses from the 40s that look like this. And you will know as you pass by that you have passed by one of those homes with Sweeties. So it's that neat thing. You'd be like, is it that one? Is it that one? Is it that one? There's not too many left, but you can guess one of those homes is this home, and it's still there. And then, of course, if you're coming from 611, as I know some of our listeners are, and you're driving towards Philadelphia on County Line Road, it's going to be on your left-hand side on the Bucks County side as you're driving by and you observe some of these early homes after turning onto County Line Road. You look to your left. Again, you'll be like, I know one of these homes is that home. But the tree line, of course, long gone. This is the idea. I keep chuckling every time she says, it's a nice secluded area. This is one of the most developed areas in the area. I mean, it's extremely dense in population. I could show like the Google Earth image, and it's just homes and homes and homes and homes. Lots changed in 80 years or so since this letter was written. But yeah, what a wonderful little snapshot of the past. And I'm going to see if I can get a copy of this picture actually over to the current residents so that they have that.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, that they would be very interested to see it when it was first sold in 49. But yeah, great things. And then we have one little portion left of this episode. I want to catch up. This is totally separate from the house stories. We have to catch up some of the world history. that's going on.
And we like to leave this towards the end if you're not interested, but it is a good place. I mean, we really should know where we came from.
Yeah.
And some major events did happen in 1949.
Yeah. So 1949, I mean, we're in the post-war era, but we have to remember the Cold War is really building up in the background. Sweetie makes no comment of this. She's way too busy. She's getting her home and all that. But we don't want to pass the time too much and not comment on what happened. In 1948, the one thing we mentioned, we hadn't mentioned too much, but we did mention this. NATO is being created in 1948. So if we rewind all the way back to April of 1949, and I didn't want to bring this up until we were talking about historical events, officially the NATO treaty is signed in Washington, D.C., establishing NATO on April 4th, 49. So official. There we go. But on October 1st, and this is why I waited for this episode, because we had to get to October. October 1st, 1949, the People's Republic of China is officially proclaimed with Chairman Mao as the chairman. So the Chinese Revolution has been going on for some time at this point. This is the proclaimed beginning of the People's Republic of China, and it's done with Chairman Mao, proclaimed as chairman, in Tiananmen Square in Beijing. So that's major. A day later, that was October 1st, October 2nd, the Soviet Union recognizes the People's Republic of China. So we can feel the buildup there. I thought that was extremely significant to say officially now. And it has not changed, of course. China's run by the Communist Party. Then, on the 7th of October of 1949, the German Democratic Republic is officially established. This is the establishment of East Germany. So that's the official title of East Germany. So as we continue in a Cold War story here in the post-war days, big, like within a week of each other, you've got China formally, officially, being recognized as the communist country, and then we have East Germany, but the official name again, the German Democratic Republic. Then, and this comes up at the end of October, but I wanted to mention it since we're taking a little moment here for the history. October 27th, 1949, the cornerstone of the headquarters of the United Nations is laid on Manhattan Island. So all of this is going on. We've got NATO. We think the United Nations is just kind of like there. The cornerstone of the building for the UN is set in Manhattan in October 49. And this leads us up to thinking about the big one that's going to be coming up in the future content of what's going on. And it's important to note because Lou works at Willow Grove. Lou is a member of the Navy. So anytime there's a war coming, something's going on over with Lou. And there's always going to be a concern that he could be sent overseas. We're not at the Korean War yet. That's coming up in 1950. But let's lay the seeds of what's going on in Korea, because it's going to come up pretty suddenly when the announcements are made heading into 1950. As of 1949, Korea, 1945, Korea had been a Japanese colony. Japan loses the war. So the United States and the Soviet Union divides Korea into the two parts at the 38th parallel. So that's when that happens. It's a part of the World War II history. Korea is very much called the Forgotten War. But in 49, as we're getting very close to the formal war starting in 1950, we have Kim Il-sung in Pyongyang, North Korea, and we have Syngman Rhee in Seoul, South Korea. Both are claiming to be the sole legitimate government of Korea. So that's where those issues are going to come about. But so that part of the world.
So let's just talk about that for a second, because Russia and the United States was divided Korea up.
Yeah.
So basically they put a piece of tape down the kid's room. So that didn't help anything.
Russia and the United States breaks up Germany. So remember, when we're looking at East Germany, when we're looking at West Germany, France, Britain, and United States divided up West Germany, and the Soviet Union gets the other half in East Germany. And you wonder, why did they get half and then 3 countries worked on the other half? Because the Soviet Union took Germany from the East. And so a lot of the decisions made were decisions that had to be figured out between Truman and Stalin. And we've got NATO being created, the UN coming in at the same time. So all this is happening. We're going to get back to Truman. He's going to be coming.
Oh, are we get the book?
Oh, yeah. The book's going to be coming back in a bit. So if people have time, pick up the book, The David McCullough Truman. But just some stuff. There's some world-changing events. I found it funny. I was looking at the Philadelphia Inquirer from to find out what was the coverage of, because now in hindsight, like the Declaration of the People's Republic of China and Mao officially, really coming in, and the end of the Chinese Revolution leading to the establishment, it's such a huge subject. It's not front page news on October 1st, 49. It's on page 7, and it's just like Mao Zedong is now the...
what was the front page news?
It was about like a steel workers kind of strike. There was like issues in the steel industry going on.
Well, I mean, that it's kind of hard to like take your current mind and place it in there, place it in that time period, because you would think that would be very important, but that the steel workers had more impact on what was going on in day-to-day life. So, I mean, obviously, and that's actually where your attention should be. The attention should be at these places. And I wonder, I mean, there's just so much, Allison, and we're currently in a culture where I know way more about what's going on the other side of the world than I ever would have had ever before because of technology. And like, what is that doing to our mental health, and what's that doing to our status, and like how much is like us worrying about what's going on the other side of the world, even though these were huge, impactful events that really did impact our earth, our world. How much of me worrying about that is actually doing any good right here where I'm at?
Yeah. And we can connect it back to Sweetie, because in some way I'm just thinking, why hasn't Sweetie mentioned like China completely went communist and Chairman Mao's over there and there's been a revolution going on? That's why it's on page 7. It's not front page news.
It is not front page news. She didn't know because it wasn't something that was out. And even with her husband, see, we have to worry about these things because Lou is in the Navy.
Yep. There's all.
Thank goodness Frank is out. She's her brother, but still, these are huge, impactful things, and I just honestly I can't believe that all this stuff happened in 1949, like around the same time.
Yeah, all the post-war stuff. Well, we'll see what happens when Korea comes up, but that's a story down the line. But start thinking about it now. Here come the things that things are in motion that are going to start with that. And we're going to talk about Korea more. It's a forgotten word, shouldn't be forgotten. So we're going to make sure it's not forgotten when we get to 1950, which is right around the corner, believe it or not. So anyway.
But with that, this is the end of episode 69.
Yep.
And we will see you guys all back here next week for episode 70.
See everyone next week. Bye.